Every one of us have a right. We have a right to live in this country. We have a right to feel good about living here. And we have a right to have a part in plotting our own future. So I ask you, what's at stake here? Today I got something every single one of you, whether you're hauling freight through the Rockies or making those long hauls under the city lights. Each of you need to hear. And it starts with the fact that your opinion matters. Your voice counts. But here's the question. No one's asking. What happens if we don't speak up? What happens if we don't make our voices heard? Are we ready for an industry that we love to be shaped by people that have never sat behind the wheel? Or will we step up and defend our United States of trucking? Broadcasting from inside the Truckin' City Mobile Studios, currently located near Rapid City, South Dakota, having more fun than any news show host is allowed to have on YouTube. Boss Man here, a 13-year veteran of the trucking industry, doing his best to run trucks during the day and broadcast to you at night, single-handedly pointing out there always is a way to make trucking great again. I do so with the earnest and passionate desire to once again give back to an industry that has provided me with such an amazing ability to provide for my family and a way in which to converse with you on a daily basis. We are here running this show, a show built for truckers, by truckers. And today I want to tackle, for the last time in this election season, some really important things that need to be thought about over the next few days. So let's get to it.
Shall we begin?
From Truckin' City Central Command, you are on the front lines. Truckin' News.
The semi-truck driver escaped a copy that deadly crash on Highway 285 this week, now under arrest.
Cutting edge opinion. And we will make truck great again. Built for truckers
You should be hauling that freight based on what works for you.
by truckers.
Remember, get them done.
Featuring
I think trucking is a very good career.
And I am gonna beat them.
my BM
We don't do it just for us and our families. We do it for you guys.
Remember, truckers are people too.
Hosted by the El Rushbo of Truckin' News, Boss Man.
Boss man, your mic is muted.
I do that more than I care to talk about. Start again, 860-785-3547. That's our number to be able to talk with us, even though technically speaking, I'm a little behind the eight ball tonight. You can also email the show at that's truckin' news at outlook.com. That's truckin' news at outlook.com. We are running this show for one primary reason, and I don't use the word primary accidentally. Okay. Elections are coming up, and you know what? It should be this important every single day. We should be focused on the issues I'm going to talk about tonight. Every single day we're on the road. Every single time we turn the key, every single load we get, every single decision we make should be geared the same way that this show is, basically. That is, I present an issue, I present a thought, and we have a conversation about it. And that's primarily what this show is. All right. We're focused in the November election season about who's president, who's not, what laws work, what laws don't. But this should be something we talk about every single day. Okay. Every day we get out here, we are working for us. But beyond working for us, we are working for each other. Everything we do, every decision we make, not only affects us here behind the wheel, it affects everybody else out there that has their hands on the contracts, on the fuel prices, on the trucks, on the laws, on the rules, on the regulations. So if it seems like I'm going a little bit overboard on the topics, please forgive me. I'm just presenting that which I see in the news feeds. I feel it's important, and I do feel that sometimes we don't pay enough attention to it. Heidi ho, truck lovers. We are back behind this golden TIB microphone for the obvious reason of welcoming you to what I call the best talk call-in show made for truckers by truckers. You are with me and my panelists on the front lines of a show that I hope will give back to the trucking community. Tonight's a little bit of a special occasion because not only are we talking about what's coming, but we're also talking about what's at stake. So I am joined with and by a panelist, a selection of panelists that comprise over 150 years. I know I got to update this slide of excellent experience. They're all different walks of life. They are the cattle haulers. They are the reefer trucks. They are the people like myself hauling household goods. They are just the everyday truckers that comprise a wide scope of people that, like you and me, get the job done. Normally, I introduce them one by one, but today I'm going to bring them all on, and I'm going to ask them one simple question. As you guys go into the early November timeframe, don't tell me if you voted. Don't tell me if you have voted one way or the other. But just tell me in a very simple and easy to answer way, how important do you think the elections are to our industry, moreover, anything else? What do you think, John? How important do you think it is?
If I had to give it a numerical value, I'd say 80%. Because it's not just in trucking, but across the wide spectrum of our country, what happens in our local and state and federal, politics is what shapes our world. So
It is.
yeah, I give it an 80%.
Yeah. How about you, Larry? How important do you feel elections, maybe not even so much presidential, but local elections, do you feel it's worth paying attention to, or are you on the side of, well, it's just another thing we can't control?
I'd pay attention. Granted, I can't really vote because I live in a truck.
Well, and again, I wasn't going to poke you on whether
it is important.
But
Get out and vote.
Yeah. All right. Fake trucking. How about yourself? I mean, in terms of importance, as I asked John earlier, do you feel like it's important? And, what say you on this?
I don't. That sounds ridiculous. My argument to why I don't think it's as important as 80% is because wherever the money is, that's the route that things go.
Right.
No matter what side of the aisle you sit on, or if you sit in the green grass. It doesn't. Who's ever funding and whoever has the money dictates what happens. Now,
Right.
in my opinion, state and local elections, for me, because of my belief structure, tend to matter more than a presidential election.
Very good point.
It,
Very
it
good point. Very good point. I agree. Hold 100%. Yeah, because not so much are we in control of the presidential side because there's a lot of factors going into that. But Fate, you raise a good point. Local elections, I think, are very overlooked and underrated. I don't know if things are the same. Go ahead, Fate. Did I touch a nerve?
I just want to say, no, you didn't touch your nerve. I just want to say one thing, and then I'll let somebody else speak. If you look at like a lot of the emissions laws that were passed in the early 2000s and the things that
Which
are
we're going
being
to talk about
passed right
that.
now,
Yeah.
it kind of starts in one part of the country by state laws that
Yes.
then stretch across the country and make it federal. That is
Yeah.
why I say state and local, in my mind, is more important than the federal side.
Right. Yeah. Yep. I totally agree. And we're going to touch on that because I'm gonna touch on that very point and topic in my opening remarks. Um, Poet, when it comes to elections, it's probably not the same, but I'm going to ask you again the same thing I asked John and Fate. How important do you feel it is to pay attention to the locals and the municipalities around you in terms of plotting the future of what you do every day? Do you feel as important as maybe some of the other panelists?
Well, yeah. I mean, after all, you live local, you
Mhm.
vote local, and then it's from municipal to provincial to
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
government.
Yep.
I have voted in every single election of those three tiers of government. Why? Because when I came to Canada, eh, I termed it as a privilege to be able to
Good
turf
point.
somebody out or get somebody in.
Oh,
I have
good
a
point.
question for Poet.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Just out of curiosity, when do they have national elections in Canada?
God, that'll be about 3 years ago. The next one is coming up next year,
So it's every 4 years?
unless yeah,
Okay.
unless the opposition votes to get it's called a vote of no confidence. If the We have several parties, okay?
Well, I don't want
If
to dive that deep into it. I was just wondering how often you guys vote, if it was similar to us.
Yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
because everybody,
every
here in the
every
U.S., we're all
4 years.
familiar with every 4 years. Yeah, okay,
Yep.
so you're pretty much the same then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And lastly, we got Thumper and Bo in the house. Thumper, how about yourself? How do you feel in terms of the importance of either the presidential or local elections making a difference on our industry?
No, I have to agree with Fate. I'm kind of in the same boat he is, but also at the same time, as far as the presidential election and stuff, all that, we can vote all we want. It don't matter. It's all about who's got more money and what they want to do. I mean,
Right.
that's just the way the world is nowadays. It's
Yeah.
they want you to think we have the power to control it, but in all reality, if we the people vote one person and it's not who they want, they'll find a way to get the person they want in.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So, but as far as the local and stuff, yeah, that does more good than the presidential, in my opinion. So local and state wise, yes, go out there and vote for that. Presidential, state your voice, go out and vote who you want for.
Right. We are certainly running later than normal. We've had some technical issues, and I'm having some mechanical issues I'm having to work through on my truck. So that's one of the main reasons why we're starting at 8, not 7. So to those loyal followers that are with us, I apologize, but yet at the same time, thank you for your patience. You know, we are a broadcast show, but I also, as I stated at the open, I run these things during the day. So sometimes things don't work out in my favor. But Seven Seas, thank you for the observation. Glad you joined us. We are going to get into what I feel like is a very important, whoever you were honking at, back at you. A very important topic and relates to how we open things. But watching me now, I want to say stick around because at the end of the show, we are going to have a revelation you can only find here on Trucking City Media.
I want to clarify
what-
something real quick. That was
Go ahead,
not me, guys. That was not me.
I know that. That's why I said what I said. I was like waiting to see the truck drive past me, and I was like, okay, whatever. But guys,
We all
let's talk.
assumed it was.
You're right. I'll bet you did. Let's touch on something that all of us really need to think about, not just so much in the election, but as we're moving forward, we really need to pay attention to these things. And Fate touched on it a minute ago. So let's open up the show with my opening thoughts. My question to you guys is, what do you think you'll be driving the rest of this year? Do you think you're still going to be in the truck you are? Do you think things are going to change dramatically in a degree that you can agree with or maybe somehow maybe disagree with? From all across the heartland, we see laws, we hear laws, we see the effects that they have on us. I want to look at an article that was written by a couple of individuals, just dropped in Politico, putting out there that states like New Jersey, Oregon, Massachusetts, and New York are all of a sudden, for whatever reason, hitting the brakes on California's clean truck mandates. Find it interesting that they wait until just merely the week before election to make this known, but they're asking if we've got the infrastructure, the dollars, and the common sense to pull off an electric transition before it runs into a ditch. That is the mandate and the efforts. And here's the kicker. California's got such a grip on these other states, kind of like Fate was talking about a minute ago, pushing their clean truck regulations across the board, making one state's policies the gold standard for everyone else. So I ask you, should one state have that license and power to dictate the future of our industry across the entire country? Let me tell you why this matters, because we're staring down an election where the stakes couldn't be higher for every single trucker on the road. We got candidates from one side who say they're going to keep these mandates full steam ahead, spending billions more on federal funding to force states to comply. But then there's the other side of the aisle saying that they're going to rescind any unspent money under these green policies and put the brakes on mandates and let us keep our diesels running. So here's where I need you, the lifeline of the economy, to weigh in. California says their rules will be the clean truck model for everyone. But tell me this, truckers, who should be calling the shots on what's running through our tanks? Honestly, California with all of its out-of-touch regulations, or people like you and me who actually understand what we need. I put a video out earlier this week. I hope you looked, and if you don't, go down there, look at it, talking about the EV mandates. Okay? Phone line's open, 860-785-3547. Tell me what you think. Do you think California's mandate has a place in Jersey and Oregon and New York? And let me ask you, what about the hundreds and millions of dollars being spent on these charging stations, which I don't know. I've seen some, but I haven't seen nearly enough. They're telling us that this is enough and that we're ready to support going electric. But honestly, I don't feel it. And I don't think those of you watching feel that way. or you wouldn't be interested. Okay. So what's it going to be? Are we going to go the route of the alternative fuels I posed as a possibility in my earlier video so that we can run the 700-800 miles a day that some of us with ag exemptions have to run? Or are we going to kowtow to Governor Newsom and go the electric route? Because here's the truth. Okay. Who do these folks think they're fooling? A couple of dozen chargers won't keep a single long haul operation running smoothly. There are those out here that have been on my show that feel probably it can give electric a chance. I've heard it said. But all right, what about the rest of us? What about those that can't fit that model? I want to hear from you in the audience. I want to hear your take. Okay. Sound off. Let's talk about this. Should we go the all electric and let those that think they know more talk up the big game? Or should we actually stand our ground and become forceful about the message that needs to be sent? We know our industry. We know what our needs are. So you guys tell me, let's start this conversation.
No,
I'll give you the first shot. You had your finger up as I came back to the screen, so have at it. What's your thoughts on this?
Try driving a unit up Death Valley Highway. Try.
It's interesting you posed Death Valley because that's here in the States.
No shit, I've been there.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
My bad. I used to. Okay. From Toronto down into Vegas, but I had to shuffle over to, what is it, Highway 59 and then
Okay.
south.
Okay.
No charging stations, no
Well,
fuel.
yeah. Now, if Midlife were here,
So?
I'm not speaking for him, but if Midlife were here, he'd be like, well, these batteries can get all kinds of range. And because I remember a live we had not long ago where that very topic was brought up. And we had a very passionate conversation about exactly how much range you can get out of electric vehicle. Okay, great. But I also remember
out of
I also remember Fate and Thumper both making that point in that same show about adverse weather conditions posing problems. And with the lack of charging stations that are, in areas such as you noted, I really worry about that. I think there's a lot to be said for time, which we're not giving this. I mean, I think we're in it too far, too fast.
I was talking about the Nevada desert, okay?
Right.
Coming across from Utah.
Mm-hmm.
That's not adverse water road to me. That's a sunshine holiday. However,
depends. Are you talking in the middle of August or in the middle of December?
Exactly, but going north of the 60th parallel, past the Arctic Circle, there's no way, and I don't give a damn if Tesla tests their units in Alaska. That's on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I only give that argument just. I only give that argument just so much clarity and depth. John, what say you?
Well, I'm going to reply to what he just said. Whether we like it or not, it's eventually coming. I got to say that. I'm not a big supporter of it, but guys, let's be honest. When the powers that be want something, and that's where the money is, kind of like Bate said, that's where we're going to go. But that doesn't mean I think we're ready for it. No. But I do think eventually that's where we're going to end up.
Yeah, well, I was just going to pose the question. I mean, do you think it's fair, as my graphic says, that we need to pump the brakes on this and actually slow down and say, whoa, let's do this right? If we're serious about getting this whole clean air transition, why not explore the alternative fuels I posed in the video I made, and as well take the time necessary to do. Say again, Faye?
Mute mics if you're not talking.
Yeah. I mean, why rush into it? Why rush headlong into pretty much what I call an experiment? you know, and really, honestly, it if done wrong, it puts a great many people at risk. Supply chain, number one. Number two, the lives that actually operate these rigs. You know, when you're putting people in an electric rig with no charging source or way to fuel, that's risky, you know? And what, we're supposed to leave it up to every single trucker out there to just automatically know that, okay, he's only got X range, or, you know, we're supposed to get used to these things like that, right? No, everybody, there's a learning curve with everybody. The makers, the dealers, and the drivers, the people like you and me that drive these things. There's a learning curve, and I'm sorry, but I don't think what do we got left now? Just under 10 years. I don't think that's enough time. I really don't. I think the alternative fuel idea that I posed in the video is a valid one. What say you, Fate?
All right, to piggyback a little bit off of what John just said,
Mhm.
it's coming. You got to
Yeah, order.
accept it.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm going to argue is, does anything get done in the time frame that the government wants done? The answer to that is no. I
No,
think
exactly.
this is just me, okay? And
Mhm.
I'm sorry if I'm taking a different approach than everybody else here. We're beating a dead horse. Like, the fact,
Are we really?
do I think you should worry about it? No.
Mhm.
You shouldn't worry about it right now, because it's
Mhm.
not what we are doing right now. Are they trying to transition to that to sometime? Absolutely. But they can't
Mhm.
even fill the orders they have right now for the electric trucks that companies have paid for 10 years ago. So,
The
like,
very same companies that are trying to still yet run these diesel engine trucks, and these dealers aren't even providing that as an option now. I
well,
don't know
that's
if
not
everybody here
true.
on the panel.
That's
That
not
is true,
true.
and it was reported in Landline. They
So you're
said that these, well, I'm not believing anything. I'm just saying what was reported. What was reported in Landline is that there was confirmation that dealers were being given alternatives via money for use of pushing their electric vehicles as opposed to the diesel trucks. They're being purposely programmed to push the electric and not the diesel. Just speak, man. You don't have to hold your hand up. You're in the hot seat anyway.
you probably have a dealership
Mhm.
30 miles away from where you are. I want
Right.
you to walk on that lot and tell
Mhm.
me how many electric trucks you see. I bet you're going to see one, and I guarantee you it is
Right.
a spotter truck. This idea
Probably.
that they're not selling your, like, diesel equipment is
Mhm.
absurd, because it's not just
Well,
diesel trucks, it's diesel everything. Like,
if
that's
you
what
read
we
the
have to
article,
start
they'll lead
looking at.
you. Yeah, if you read the article, they'll lead you to believe that's what's going on. I mean, you and I both know the difference because you don't see that many electric trucks in these dealers. I agree with you. They're not trying to. What they're doing is they're not taking the same orders of Class 8 trucks that are being made with the ICE engines. They are actually turning people away on that. That much has been confirmed in that article. But what they're trying to do is push people through the dealers to these electric alternatives. That's what the article is saying. Not that they're selling electric trucks. I haven't seen anybody buy an electric truck from a Freightliner dealer or whatever. I mean, hypothetically, I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but what I'm saying is they're pushing them away from it. That's what the article is saying.
I
You
don't
want
want
to
to
say?
take the
Well,
air out of this conversation, but he started off by saying he's not going to worry about it. I don't think it's something that we should worry about. I agree
No.
with that. The reason why is we have no control over it. Okay,
Right.
we're going to drive whatever has a steering wheel and whatever we can make money off of, and
Does it
whatever we
not
can make the most money off of.
right?
two
Does it not
two
concern anybody here and um everybody in the audience? Opine. Let me know in the comments. Does it not concern you guys that the prices are being artificially affected by the very decisions being made around this topic of conversation? I mean, for example, you pointed out in a previous live, John, that trucks today, if you were to buy a brand new truck, you're paying over 200 grand. 4 or 5 years ago, that wasn't the case. Well, I mean, they're probably cheaper than that now, Fade. I mean, there's some that are stripped down. They're a lot less than that, but still, they're more expensive. That's
You
my
can
point.
buy a brand new Mac off the lot around 160 right now.
Okay. Well, was it that?
And I
Was
just,
it that? Okay, go ahead, Vic. Go ahead. You just what?
I just want to say something here.
All
I
right,
was
go ahead.
at a dealership 2 weeks ago and test drove the International S13. That's the truck I'm thinking about purchasing.
Right.
That salesman worked very hard for me to purchase that truck that day, not to steer me away from buying that truck and thinking about buying an electric truck. That
Right.
salesman was trying to get me to buy that diesel powered truck that day.
Okay.
And yes, truck prices have gone up. Yes, truck prices will go down. That is supply and demand. That's a normal thing.
Right. Well, and that's a fluctuation. It happens in every industry, but with the political article that I'm talking about, and with the concerns over just the future of truck makers and the way they're pushing people around, I have cause for concern. I mean, I'm sitting in a 23 Freightliner Cascadia. I mean, this thing was 185 right off the showroom. And I couldn't make the payments on this. I honestly, boss man, I don't know how you make the payments on this thing, really. But that's just the direction. I mean, I bought a 4-year-old truck, and at the time paid 60 grand back in 17. I don't know how prices have changed on used trucks, but if I were to use this as a guide, I'd really worry. I mean, if in another 3-4 years I want to buy a used truck, what am I looking at? 100 grand, 110? That's why I worry, because today's prices just don't make sense. Go ahead. Hey, go ahead.
Oh, jeez,
Got
I'm
so
sorry.
Hey,
You're all
that hurt.
discombobulated, Pete.
That really hurt.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry. I do not mean to be argumentative, boss man, but you have triggered
You're
me
not.
on like 3 things you've just said. Because I purchased this truck back in 2023 at the height of the
Okay.
truck market for $80,000. This truck
Okay.
today is like $39,000. So in
Okay.
3 years from now, if you want to go buy a truck, it's whatever the market demands. It might
Right.
be 80,000, it might be 30,000. This
Right.
idea
Right.
that you couldn't afford a brand new truck, you could afford a brand new truck if your business
Could
allowed
support it.
you the
Yeah.
opportunity to support that payment.
Right.
I can
Right.
afford a brand new truck. I choose not to because I like more money for myself, I guess I could say, than putting it in a brand new piece of equipment. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Seven
don't
C's
know.
agrees with
I don't
your
know what
earlier point, by the way. Seven C's
what was
says,
that.
thank you for saying, he's saying, thank you to Fate. Same story. When I start seeing much higher ratio of these types of trucks, then maybe I'll worry about it. Talking about your earlier point about electric trucks not being on the lots. So
Listen,
company drivers should be able to make. Yeah.
do I
Yeah.
think these
Good point, Vic.
conversations are good? They
Yeah.
are good because they set us up for change. And the reality
Exactly.
is everything's changed. In the
It is.
25 years that I've been in this industry, a lot has changed. That's
Yeah.
progression, guys. That's what we
It
should
is.
be doing. We should
It
be
is.
evolving. We should be changing. We should be
Yeah.
getting better than
Yeah.
what we currently are now. That's
Well,
normal.
let
Go
me
ahead.
prove his point. A lot of the people that have been driving for 20 or plus years that are on this panel and in the audience can answer this. When automatic cars became a thing, everybody was like, that'll never happen in trucks. No, it did. And when electric cars happened, everybody was like, that's never going to happen in trucks. And now we're saying, yeah, it's probably going to happen. Guys, it's just reality. To see what the smaller cars are doing, eventually it'll make its way up to a truck. Am I wrong, guys? Like, you guys been driving longer than me. Do you guys agree with me? He's just shaking his head yes.
Right.
We can't hear that. You're on
Sure.
mute.
Go ahead, poet. Sound off, man. Y'all show too.
I did not most of what you were saying. Okay?
Yeah.
Can you repeat it,
Well,
please?
I was just saying that, like in the beginning, when cars came out with automatic transmissions, everybody's like, "That'll never happen in a truck," and look where we are. And then electric cars came out, and everybody, that will never happen in a truck. Well, as we've all already pretty much stated, it's coming. Okay,
Okay.
that's how it works. Anything that's in a car will eventually come here, and automation's in cars right now, and eventually it'll be here. It's just how it works. It makes the progression up the chain, and where the diesel trucks are the top of the chain. So
I agree.
one question I'm going to
I
pose
def
here. One question I'm going to pose here, and that is simply over the word I call disconnect. Okay, because as you and Fate both pointed out, this stuff's coming. We can't stop it, and you know what? I have no resistance to it. I welcome it. I always welcome technological advances. I welcome safety. I welcome I welcome all of this. Okay, but I also can't help but notice and acknowledge the huge disconnect between those people making the rules and the laws and those of us in the industry every day doing the job. And that disconnect is simply this: they think things can be done faster and more efficiently than it really can be. And that's why I talk about these things the way I do, because I really think we need to do everything we can as an industry to cut off or eliminate as much of that disconnect as does exist. So, to you on the panel and you in the audience, if what I say and what I put up as stories seems repetitive and seems rather, to use John's point, beating a dead horse, it's because it does concern me that that disconnect never seems to ever go away. I do think we as a society and as an industry, I think we owe it to ourselves to speak up, be heard, and be properly represented when it comes to what is right, whether it's for our safety, for our economy, for just the overall direction of the industry. Now, if you in the audience disagree, I want to hear why. I want you talking to me. I want you telling me. Call the studio 785-3547. Let us know. I want this conversation to continue because I think this industry is seriously underrepresented. I really do.
All right.
And that's
I
why
got
I
it.
have this. That's why I have this show the way I do. Go ahead, Thumper.
All right, I'm sitting there just kind of waiting my turn, but
Go.
okay. So to answer your question about the electric vehicle thing, no, I don't think we need to worry about it.
No.
Second thing is we actually sit and think about it. We're supposed to be flying around in spaceships by now.
Yeah, right. Good point,
And
7 I like that. 7 I
and
agree, but electric cars still haven't taken over. As long as we have fuels being refined, we'll have combustible engines. Thank you, John, for pointing that out.
exactly, yes.
Yeah.
And then another thing too, electric vehicles have been around since the 20s.
hmm
You people don't realize it. They weren't really perfected. Now in the last few years, yes, they've become more advanced. But there has been, if you go sit down and look at the vehicle history, there's been electric cars since the 20s.
I think 7C just triggered fate.
And
No, because 7C's electric cars kind of remind me of vegan diets. It's popular, but not overwhelming is the world's most common doing.
oh jeez.
Go
But
ahead,
you
Fate.
know, I mean, and then like the whole people telling us what to do. Well, there's three sides to every story. There's their side, our side, and the truth.
And
And
the
we
truth.
all we all can't get on the same page. So we're just gonna keep fighting this battle until somebody throws their hands up and walks away. Well,
Exactly.
in this instance, a lot of people don't want electric, so we're kind of fighting back.
Exactly.
That's my
Well, and
opinion.
that's all right. Our expectation is that we're going to defend an industry that pays our bills, makes us possible. It makes it better and more possible for us to live and take pride in what we do. I mean, that to me is what it means to be a trucker. I mean, the more people don't listen to us and don't take what we say seriously, the more I feel very slighted. And that's why I have these shows. I read the articles I do. I draft the opinions I do. I mean, these are not things other people write. These are things I write. I take the time to research and think about it and do it because I'm passionate. I want you guys to know what's going on, how I think, and I want to know if what I think is wrong. Because if I'm crazy, I want somebody to tell me. You know.
See,
I don't know what that text message was,
Larry's
but
got
I'll
something.
look at it later. Go ahead, Larry.
I got a question. Why don't we go back to horse and buggy pulling loads down the road? That'll solve everybody's problem.
I want to see you. I want to see you carry 41 cows with a horse and buggy.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many horses? How many horses are you going to have in front of your wagon, there, buddy? 41,000
6.
pounds. Yeah, I don't think 6 is going to handle it, but you keep right on thinking that, brother.
I'm just messing.
Oh, I know.
I'm just messing around.
That's cute.
well, just imagine if you were in their shoes back in the horse and buggy days, you were looking at those engines running down the road going, yeah, we're never going to get there. That was my point. And
Yeah.
I think Bait has something to say up here.
Go ahead, Vate. Go ahead.
So you made a comment, or it's been thrown around about the disconnect from, should we call it, agencies and governments back to us, the truck driver, right?
Right.
Like, is there this big disconnect? Once again, I know I'm in the minority here. No, there isn't a disconnect. Why? Because people have to have crazy ideas for research and development. Now, when I was a kid, the only people that went to space was NASA. It was absurd to think a human being would spend their own money on building rockets and literally take over space. Well, now we have
Right.
billionaires that are our NASA. NASA doesn't shoot rockets into space anymore. It's people like Elon, it's people like Bezos.
Right.
These were absurd disconnect ideas back then. I'm 45 years old. So we're
Right.
talking 30 years ago, that was an
Mhm.
absurd idea that a human being would spend their own money and build a jet and shoot a car into space.
More or
You
less
have
to
to
demonstrate the disconnect. I raised 2 points and demonstrate this illustratively because you raised the point of going into space. We now have a trash yard up there, a zone, an area around the orbit of the planet that we can't occupy anything or safely put anything. We have to get above it or stay below it. And NASA has to clear that because they know where all this space junk is. That's number one, but that's minor. Um, Number 2 point is, do you not think that the mandate itself that California is trying to control, environmentally speaking, and its popularity among other states, do you not think that by itself demonstrates the disconnect I referred to? I mean,
no.
honestly, why should it be one state's power to force the other 49 to comply with something as ridiculous as the clean air mandate? I mean, shouldn't that be an option? Because not all states fiscally can handle that.
I
I'll
agree
let you
with that
take it.
statement.
Right.
I agree with that statement. And
Mhm.
I do believe states have the right to regulate laws in their state with the people that live there if they get voted on and things
Right.
like that, right? I
Sure, sure.
100%
Fair
support that.
representation. Yes, sir. Yes.
I the disconnect that you talk about, like I said, is let's say it's absurd thinking. Let's just go on this path. It's
Okay.
absurd, or there's a major disconnect between what one state wants and what the industry is commanding right now. Well,
Right.
like I said, the only way that research and development gets done by these big corporations, that
Mhm.
whether it's PACCAR, Tesla, if Freightliner, International, is by having absurd guidelines that
Right.
force the engineers to create new products. So
Right.
the disconnect, like, I don't, it's absurd thinking, but that absurd thinking is going to be our future. So
Right.
by the time everything is instituted, we will already be ready to either transition into that, or who knows what it'll look like. But you need to have that disconnect to have the atom bomb, to
Well,
have.
But
so more to your point, Fate, and we'll move on from there. More to your point, you believe the disconnect is not as bad as I put it, but then again, progress is good. And I'm just building in your point. Progress is good if managed correctly. I tend to think that sometimes that's overstated. I do, because I mean, to have a clean air expectation, that's one thing, but for one state to have the power to force the other 49, that's where I think that disconnect is, and that's why I raised the point,
So
because, well, I mean, just a simple point that um, the Texan made. The possibility of an electric truck catching fire while I sleep is enough for me to pass. Just the disconnect and the misinformation, because
let
yeah,
me
it's new technology. 1 second, John. New technology. At the same time, it's not as understood as it could be.
Well,
Poet, a minute ago,
and that
you referenced learning spike. I think that's what's going on here, because everybody's pushing is so hard. You get people like the Texan in there. I don't want to get. I don't want to get burned up. Well, is that really going to happen? Who knows? What were you going to say, John?
I actually got two things about that comment. Um, I mean, let's be honest. We don't know if that's a possibility or not, but can't your diesel truck catch on fire and burn you up while you're sleeping? Isn't that a thing? I mean,
I've
So
I
had
don't
it
mean to be
happen to
rude.
me.
any vehicle
and
with
it's
fuel can do that.
proven, and
Yeah.
your bunk
I,
heater, your APU, like
I know
these are all
that was
things that happen very regularly.
that was my point. But on a bigger point, I think the disconnect is making a regulation setting a deadline. That's the
Right.
disconnect. I think when technology is there, that's when it comes. I don't think government should set a deadline on something, because if technology isn't there, I don't care if that deadline's there or not, it ain't gonna happen.
Right. Right.
So
If if if
Gentlemen on the panel.
California wants to try to run the country,
Mhm.
then let them go be their own country.
Right. Gentlemen on the panel, I would like to introduce somebody that took advantage of clicking on our StreamYard link and joining the conversation. Let's welcome in Trucker's Hammock. How are you, sir? I'm glad you joined the show. What say you on this matter?
Let's see. Can you hear me?
Very well, sir. Have at it, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a retired trucker from FedEx Express. I ran the air freight, and I have experience with Tesla because that became, before I retired, most of my business.
Mhm.
And this guy's a very impressive guy. The Tesla truck is a successful vehicle. Not now. Everybody else's EV, just like the other EVs, is unsuccessful, but
Right.
his
His
is
seems to be making the
successful.
most headway, as far as I'm told and can see. He's got the most progress.
Yeah, I think the numbers on it are just overwhelming, to tell you the
Mhm.
truth, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of the disconnect that I spoke of earlier, how do you sit on that? Do you think I'm right, or do you see it differently?
I didn't catch that, so you're gonna have to explain that to me, what the disconnect was. So
Well, I just posed the argument that, why should it be one state's responsibility to set the tone for the rest of the country? So far, everybody in news talks about, and this article that is referenced in the description of this live show talks about the clean air mandate and the need for pushing the electric, mandate through and getting everybody on board. My thought train on this disconnect is that in that article, and as I pointed out in my opinion, 4 states so far, and others are climbing on, 4 states so far have filed suit to put up roadblocks to force a slowdown on this. So the disconnect I pose is, why should it be California's sole responsibility to force the other 49 to comply with their demands? Shouldn't it be, as Fate mentioned earlier, up to each individual state to set the pace? I mean, let's be real. The trucking industry does want to transition, but I think it needs its own time frame, not what Governor Newsom says. What do you think?
I agree. I don't think anything should be mandated. And Elon is the most libertarian guy out there is.
Yeah,
He
right.
just he just wants government to get out of the way so that he can innovate and create things. That's what he's all about. And that's the only way it ever works. They here in Michigan, they're building all these battery factories for cars that don't exist. There is no electric car industry really besides Tesla. There is zero, absolutely zero. Look at the
Michigan, right? And Michigan right now is setting laws and rules and standards to advantage this electrification. Case in point being the video I made about the Ambassador Bridge. I mean, crossing from Canada now, you can run 2 types of hazmat that you couldn't run prior to that rule being made. There you go. They're trying to make it easy for these electric car manufacturers to make their products. God bless them. They're doing good, but at what risk? So, Fate, you want to go ahead and add into that?
Okay, it's just kind of based on what John said and what you have said, because here's a deal with deadlines, and I just stated this earlier.
Right.
Nothing in government is done with exact deadlines except taxes. And let's be honest, if you didn't have a deadline to pay your taxes, you probably wouldn't do it. Where is there incentives for companies to try and change what they currently have if there wasn't some sort of artificial, because that's what I'm going to call it. It's an artificial timeline. It will change. But there's no incentive to research and develop. The Hammock, I said his name right. It's Hammock, right?
Yeah. Trucker's Hammock. That's right. Yep.
He talks about Elon. Elon is, how do I say this? Like, he's doing things and thinking ahead when everybody else needs to catch up. So if our government doesn't...
How you doing, Thumper? See you in a minute. Look at Texan's comment. Elon Musk is a military intelligence contractor. He can't do anything the government won't allow him to do it. Think about it.
No, he's a private business. He can do as he pleases.
He acts like an intelligence contractor too. I mean, he does get away with
both.
a lot of things.
He is technically both. He is a military contractor, but he's also his own private business. He can actually, in his own private business, come up with something that would blow our minds, and the government can't tell him he can't.
So it's so can Bezos. Bezos is in the same predicament.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Thumper.
Like, I heard Elon Musk. I've heard of his name. I know what his company is and everything. But did he actually invent Tesla, or did he hire people to invent the cars and the trucks and stuff like that?
He had the concept, and he hired the people to make them. It's no different than SpaceX. He had the concept, and then him and engineers worked together to produce it.
Do you understand? Like, the patents are open to anybody. Why isn't everybody
there is no patent.
taking it? Like, it's open. He will show you how to build this. Why aren't people doing it? These artificial dates forces people to do it. That's what I'm trying to say. And it's not a disconnect, because it needs to, how do I say this? I'm not saying it needs to happen because I'm like a big believer in zero emissions, everything, but change, it happens. Like, we have to adapt. Like, we have to evolve our technology. Part of that is, the transportation industry that changes over time and has since the first car was on the road.
Yeah.
It's just something that has to happen. And they put a date on, in 30, whatever the date is, 2034, everything needs to be electric. That's when other states will step in and stop that.
Right. Can I point out, socially, we've been putting dates on things for years? I mean, watch Back to the Future. We're not on flying skateboards. I mean, come on. We're past that year.
Yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Well, guys, hang tight because I'm about to spice up the conversation again. Before the end of the show, we're gonna spice it up even more. So you guys hang tight for just a minute because I want to bring up something else I think is equally as important as this topic we're talking about. The power of the vote. Christine came in a minute ago and said she wanted to make sure her vote counts. Well, lo and behold, dear lady, you hang tight because I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. Why truckers must stand up. As an article recently highlighted, the hesitation of several blue states to fully adopt California's clean truck mandates, citing supply issues, high costs, and the lack of necessary infrastructure. Oregon, New Jersey, Massachusetts, New York have all pumped the brakes on these rules for now. Why? Because even the politicians are realizing what we've known all along. There's a disconnect between lofty environmental goals and the practical realities that we face out here every single day. So let me ask you, who's at the table when these decisions are made? And who's speaking up for you? You and me, the people that run these trucks dependably every day, the essential workers keeping this country moving. More often than not, it certainly ain't us. It's the bureaucrats, it's the regulators, and people like we just talked about, the Elons, the Bezoses, the corporate guys. They bring up what they think is best, and we get very few points made at the table. This coming election isn't just about political red or blue, okay? It's about keeping this industry alive and ensuring that the needs of the people like you and me are not steamrolled by decisions made miles away in government offices. When states like Jersey and New York talk about adopting California's electric mandates without having the chargers, the electric trucks, or the budget to make it feasible, we got a problem. It's not just truckers don't care about cleaner options. No, we do. Okay. We're all for making the world a better place and our families and the future generations. But when these regulators set these mandates without the understanding for our lifestyle and its effect on what we do, it's clear they haven't listened to those of us living the reality. Imagine trying to make your routes, reach your deadlines, keep the costs low while being told you have to comply with mandates that cost you more and complicate everything you do. For some of us, it may even mean a difference between making a living or leaving the industry altogether. So when politicians and policymakers push the regulations that risk undercutting the very industry that fuels our country, we got to remember it's our vote that puts them in these seats to begin with. And I'm not just talking about the Trumps and the Harrises. I'm talking about the locals too. The decisions affecting our diesel engines, our fuel options, and even our long haul routes are being influenced by the very people you put in the office. California's rules are attempting to shape the industry nationally. And if we're not careful, we may all be caught up in regulations that make it nearly impossible to stay profitable. But we have a tool, our vote. To challenge these issues head on, in this election, we need to take a close look at who truly supports what we do, our industry, our jobs, and our ability to provide for our families. We need to stand united, guys. We need to stand up for what makes our industry the way it is. It's rolled true and plain for the last 70, 80 years. I'm putting a rough number on it. I'm not a scientist. Forgive me. It's imperative that we do the right thing. Vote your conscience. Vote the right way. Keep people fighting for us ahead of us, not the other way around. Let's talk about this as if it matters like never before. Because it does. It matters. Okay? We still have a few days left before this election, and everything we talk about tonight We may be revisiting this in another 4 years. We may not. That's for you to know, for them to figure out, and us to work around. So what's really going on here? How do you guys think about the vote now that I've said that? Does my opinion change you in any way? John, what do you think?
Well, I mean, the best you can do is vote what's best for you. Honestly, your world that you live in, you have your own opinions. I'm not going to pick a side right now. You know, we live in a country where you can believe in what you want to believe in, but whatever best fits you personally. And if you're a truck driver, I don't know the exact statistic, but I know a large percentage of truck drivers don't vote. And honestly, that's probably why we don't have as much of a voice in our government. Because if we were more active in our government as truckers, we would probably have more of a voice and have things happen more the way we like it. So
it's very possible. You notice every 4 years, the numbers on those that elected, those that voted, always change. It's interesting how the dynamic, depending on the topic, the atmosphere, the environment, there's always different numbers. You always notice that? I mean, they're not high, low, or whatever. It's just every year it's different. They're never, because to argue your point or against your point, they'd be the same in every election.
No.
Everybody says they're fixed. They're not. They're different. Every time, every election comes up, there's always different people voting. And they always vote different ways.
Our population is growing. And lately, politics is becoming so passionate. The numbers are going up and up and up and up. That's why the numbers are different every year. But statistically, truckers, as a percentage, don't vote. Less vote than not vote in our industry. And I think that's part of the reason why our voices as truckers aren't heard. But also, my situation is different than yours, different than his.
Everybody's different.
We're like Pate and I might not agree on political issues when it comes to trucking, or you and I might not agree, or me and Larry might not agree. The reason why is because we're looking out for what's best for us.
Everybody's got their own take, and that's very clear. Truckers Hammock, being you're the new guy on today's panel, what do you say on what on my opinion about voting? What you disagree with anything I said, or you agree, or what's your take?
Yeah, just when you said about not voting, I was working for the local congressman, going door to door. It's the first time I've ever done this because I'm retired. I got time, and the first guy that answered the door said, "I don't vote," which kind of shocked me.
Wow.
I mean, it was a pretty upscale neighborhood. And he said, "I don't vote." I said, "Oh, okay," but I guess there's quite a few people that don't vote in Michigan. Michigan is so corrupt, it's ridiculous. I mean, I think we're going to pass Louisiana and Illinois pretty soon. The corruption here is unbelievable. As far as, registered voters, more registered voters than population. I don't know if you followed it, probably not followed it at all, but it's ridiculous. It's to tell you the truth, in the old days, the Republicans and Democrats, it was union, non-union. Now, the Democrats are just a party of chaos, in my opinion. That's all they are. There's a party of chaos that wants to take down the government and establish, I hate to say it, a one world government where everybody does the same thing.
Well, I will say, on this show, we don't talk so direct about politics, but, I think there are people on both sides that are kind of crazy. Now, everybody in this thing off of YouTube, they know where I lie. But in reality, there are crazy people on both sides. It doesn't matter which side you're on. So, but as that pertains to trucking, do you think in Michigan, I think you said you're from, do you feel like that the corruption has got into, the regulations for trucking?
Yeah, well, I think the whole EV thing, which is totally insane, because most of the legacies have no EV product at all. They have nothing, and they have no plans on making it. So I don't know what they're pushing all these batteries to. GM, Ford.
Yeah, I was actually, not to cut you off, Truckers Hammock, but I was actually hinging on opining on that story too, because I saw a story, nothing to do with trucking or semis. But I saw a story recently about Ford actually putting the brakes on their EV production for correct me, I may be wrong, but I think their F-150, they were going to suspend the electric production of their F-150 because of something to do with technical issues. So yeah, just kind of agreeing with what you're saying a minute ago.
That's correct as far as I know.
Yeah. I see, and that's part of the argument I made in the earlier segment about the disconnect. I mean, if everybody can do the same thing with the same quality in mind and with the same purpose, I think we'd get farther faster, and I wouldn't have any problem jumping on board with, okay, let's try this or that or whatever. I'm hesitant because, in one respect, Daimler Corporation has one purpose. Ford and their cars have another. Peterbilt and Kenworth, may do something different. You see, everybody's all over the map. No one is going the same direction. So, if there was a way in which we could eliminate the chaos you spoke of a minute ago, not just on the Democratic side, the Republican side too. Republicans have their moments of chaos as well. And to support what John said a minute ago, I try not to be a firmly political show. I'll use politics for references, like as in tonight, because we're so close to the vote. But you know what? They both have their moments. Chaos exists in everything, but especially in both colors, red and blue. So, did you want to add something, Fate? I saw you kind of getting triggered there a second ago. I like using that word.
Well, listen, we're a country, whether we like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whether you want to argue it or not, think of it like a union. Just because you don't agree with something doesn't mean the other 5 people agree with you.
Right.
That's the country we live in. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's what we live in. You can make an argument. They've given some stuff back to the states that have proven what some people thought the country wanted isn't what the country wanted, or necessarily that state wanted.
Right.
So like this idea, here's what I'm going to say. I do believe everybody should go out and vote. I also think if you choose not to vote, that's your right. And
exactly,
I don't see a problem with that.
Right. Yeah.
Because we don't have to vote. That's
right.
That's freedom.
Can I point out, if you're going to go out and not vote, then don't complain about what you get.
I was actually going to just say the same thing, to be honest with you.
I disagree with that as well. I disagree with that as well. I have no shame in saying, everybody on this panel knows the way I lean and what my belief structures are.
I'm in the middle on that one, guys, only because of this. I mean, I agree that John's philosophy is if you don't vote to have your say about who the person making calls and decisions are, that you shouldn't complain about the decisions they make. But I also see the argument you're making, Fate, that, we live in this country too. And as such, we are entitled to the very thing I opened this show with. In fact, I opened the show with, we all have rights. We all have the option to choose to exercise those rights. And one of those is to be able to live the best life we can. I believe I'm paraphrasing how I opened the show. But, to that, I agree with you, Faye. When it comes down to having the platform, and I'm not just talking about my show, I'll get to that in a minute, but the platform for exercising your ability, one of those rights being cast your vote. That is something you can't necessarily do in other countries.
Okay, let me ask you this question. How many of you have gotten out of jury duty? I know I have. I'll be honest here. I got out of jury duty very easily.
I was only selected for jury duty once, and I did have to go. I did serve my time. So I could not get out of it.
Okay, like I've gotten
Didn't
out of
try.
it a couple of times, right?
Yeah, true. Yep.
The reason I'm selected for jury duty is because I vote.
Right.
Right? That's where your jury pool comes from.
Right. Exactly.
True.
Now
And
now
I've
is that
never
my
been asked.
is
Well,
that
I
my
think
civic
I think the Canadian system's a little differently, but keep going, Fate.
is
No,
it my
no, it's not.
We'll get to that in a minute. Keep going, Fate.
is it my civic duty then? Is it my civic duty then to not try and get out of jury duty? Do you understand where I'm going with this? Like
The
voting's
difference
important to
is
me.
Well, yeah, I see where you're
Voting's
going. Yeah.
important to me, right?
Yeah.
the difference
It might not be
is
important to the guy next to me. And I
Right.
have no right to tell him that it's important. Like, do
Right.
you understand what I'm saying? Like,
I'm just
Right.
saying if you're going to complain about it, rather than just complaining about it, do something about it. It's like when you go to work. You got the guy that works really hard, and you got the guy that doesn't work as hard. But the guy that doesn't work as hard, if he complains that he doesn't make as much money as the guy that works hard, that's on him.
Mhm.
So if you're going to complain about the things that you don't like but not vote, that's on you because you didn't vote.
When you're in a hot
Go
seat,
ahead.
Fate, don't raise your hand. Just talk.
what? I don't want to take away from other people. Do
You're
you
not. You're
like,
a
John?
Nazi.
I understand what you're saying, but do you think there's some people that live their life thinking that the government is useless?
I do.
Yes,
I'm kind of one of those people. I think the
I am
government.
too.
I mean, I believe in some government,
Yeah.
but I know there's people that believe that the government's useless. Those people might not vote. They have every right to complain about the people that are sitting up there, whether they vote or not, because they
I'll
don't
be honest with
agree
you.
with the whole
I heard.
structure.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I heard Trucker's Hammock pipe up a minute ago. He agrees with you. I think more broadly than that, I think they're too big. They're incapable of doing what you just
The
asked. They
government's
can't because they're too big. They're too darn big.
The government was designed for the average day worker. It was not designed to be a full-time job.
Yeah, and it's turned into a lobbying organization more than anything nowadays. You know, that's my take on it. So, I hope someday we
Well,
can change that. I really do. I really do.
well, I'm just curious. Fate, do you disagree with what I'm saying about someone that works hard and someone that doesn't work hard? The guy that doesn't work hard complain about the guy that works hard makes more money. It's no different than not voting and then complaining about what happens when you don't vote.
I'm not saying I don't disagree with you or that I disagree with you. What I'm saying is the fact that we say these things, the fact that, I mean, no disrespect to anybody, the fact that people think just because somebody votes one way or has a ideology one way that they're a certain type of person, like, that's just wrong.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, I'm more
can't,
of a. I get what you're saying. I definitely get it.
I'm not saying I
Go ahead.
disagree with what your statement is. I just
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
be very clear. Like, I would never take that stance because it's not my right to take that stance. People can do whatever they want to do, like within the boundaries of the laws of your your city, your state, the federal government. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
This is such
No,
a
I
hot
agree with
topic
you.
for me because
Well, I mean, and
As you
everybody
and
has
I
their
know,
right to feel what you guys do, so that's not. There's nothing wrong with that.
as you and I know, I mean, we talk about this stuff off air all the time, and we don't agree on everything, but we have a right to each other's opinion. Like, you have a right to your opinion, even if I disagree with you, and I have a right to mine, even if you disagree with me. It could be my idea, could be freedom of speech. I could have the dumbest idea in the world, but I have a right to have that dumb idea. You know what I mean?
So I
have a right to be an idiot.
I'm gonna share something. And we're not like being political, or I'm not sharing in-depth stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is somebody, I don't know how to say this. Well, I've talked about it on the show, right? Like, I'm more of a libertarian than anything, right?
We all know that.
I lean left. This country needs, and I'm not blaming one particular person or one particular party.
Right.
This country just needs to get back to your neighbor is your neighbor, and you want to help your neighbor.
Amen.
Like this bashing, this idea that a Democrat is the party of chaos, like we can't think like that. Like that's what's destroying us internally. And
Yes.
and we
I
can't
understand.
go on like that. We
No.
can't.
I agree with what you're saying.
I agree with you, but
Yep.
our media pits the two sides against each other so hard that it's sometimes I fall into, you know, that even I fall into that trap where it's us versus them all the time. In reality, we're all one country, and whether we
Which is
like those
why-
crazies on the outside fringe of our government or like our politics or not, they're still our country. They're still our neighbors. We still need
Which
to,
is one of-
you know, bring them an apple
Well,
pie when they move into the neighborhood.
which is one of the reasons why I feel so passionate about this show that I have with all of you as panelists and you watching in the audience. I mean, just the idea that what we talk about here can, to at least a few people watching, make a difference. It's our right to have, and it's our right to be able to get up here and have a libertarian to one side of me talking his viewpoints, but at the same time have everybody else, whatever your philosophies or thoughts, I'm not going to single out anybody, but you know, conservatives, libertarians, it doesn't matter. I mean, because this is a politician's show, it is a trucking show, but without someone like myself calling out the media for exactly what you just pointed out, John, you know, are we any wiser for it? No. I'm glad to be a part of that, and I'm glad you guys are too. So, well, look, I mean, the election that we're talking about is not the only election. We have an election of our own to cover and talk about here. And pardon me, gentlemen, while I set the stage for this massive conversation between me and, sorry, poet, got to leave you out for a minute, Mr. John right here. Not long ago, I had a debate video up. It was launched on not only my channel, Grumpy's channel, and also that of all three channels, basically. The debate was who was going to be president of the United States of Trucking. Now, I've said some things in the past about the United States of Trucking. It's my philosophy. It's my shtick. It's the way I bring you guys the truth in broadcasting. But behind the scenes, we've done a count and we've figured out that this man here has a heading which pretty much sums up what the results are. So I'm going to give you a moment or two to opine on your winning the results of it and anything else you'd like. And I'll be back.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I did hear from Grumpy today, and he stepped down in the most honorable ways, and I do appreciate that he did that. He conceded. I would like to name Toga as the Department of Transportation. I want Bate to be the Department of Housing, and I have a couple other appointments I'd like to do, but I'd like to thank everybody for voting. I really appreciate it. But before I get too far into this, my first real act as president of trucking is I'm going to step down. Yes, I'm going to step down. I'm going to give Boss Man the reins and give him the president of trucking because I just don't have time for it, guys. I'm too busy producing shorts, and apparently he has a bunch of time to go live 3 or 4 times a week, so I'm going to make him the president of trucking. Good luck, guys. Enjoy your new administration.
Well, I was trying to give you a proper moment in the sun, but you just ruined it for me. I swear. Leave me on the lurch. Make me president of something, and I don't have a speech prepared. How dare you?
Well, you know, with a name like Boss Man, what do you expect? You should be president. I mean, honestly. So, we got people raising hands like crazy right now.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait! I want to put Bate. I'm sorry. I want to change Bate's department before I step down. I want to put him in. I want to put him in the complaint department.
Oh, stop! What say you, Fate?
I love you, John. And but this election was rigged because somebody like myself who decides to become an owner operator knows how to pull a fifth wheel pin. That is all I am gonna say. And I want no part of any government.
You know, John and I talked about this off the show, but we expected, of all people that was going to say that, we expected somebody else in our panel to say they wanted a recount. Why are you not surprised?
Well, I will say, I want to reply because, you know, it's the right thing to do here. Though what he is saying may have been true at one point in my career that I didn't know how to pull a fifth wheel pin, but didn't we all start somewhere? Didn't we all start not knowing how to do something? And then we learned and we got better at it. And as a country, we can do the same under the leadership of Boss Man. Who's your vice president, Boss Man?
I think I'm going to do the honorable thing, and I will name the grumpy old trucker as my vice president.
Awesome.
I think
Maybe he
that's the
should be in
honorable.
charge of the complaint department.
Yeah, well, I was going to say he bounces off those responses left, right, sideways, and he's good with the rants. So I mean, you know, it's only fitting. Grumpy old trucker should be VP. I mean, he did
I
the
did
honorable
promise.
thing and conceded the way he did. So I think that's just only right.
I'll be honest. I promised Toga the Department of Transportation had to be voted for me, so you got to make sure he gets that. That's the string
Toga,
that's attached here.
That's
Toga,
pretty typical, John. That's
well,
pretty
no,
typical. Send it overseas. That you're going right away. That's
you know, I
pretty
didn't think
typical
about
with
that.
government.
I didn't think about that until you mentioned that. That's funny, Fate. I like that. That is
I didn't think of
hysterical.
that either. That's actually funny.
Yeah. Oh,
I
wow.
picture Toga in the truck next
guys,
to me. I know he's not, but I always do because he's so active.
John,
you know,
I think we have just been set up. I think we were just set up there.
okay. You know why? Because
What's up?
none of you guys know how to how to spell grabberment.
Oh, come on now. I've spelled it to you in
I know.
text messages.
Yeah, I know, but you've never
Yeah.
said lamestream or
Well,
grabberment.
I didn't know about
Well,
that until just recently.
it depends. It depends. If you're drinking this,
One we're talking about.
if
Yeah.
you're drinking this, you say government. If you're drinking what you're drinking, you say grabberment. I get it.
You're funny,
How the
John.
hell? And what do you think I'm drinking?
I don't know. We're on YouTube. I'm not going there right now.
Yeah, no, we're not.
But
Yeah,
but
we're
guys,
not.
I appreciate you playing along in our fun and voting for me.
Yes.
Just remember, guys, Boss Man. Wrong other side. Boss Man Show. Make sure you do subscribe to his channel. He's growing. He's getting bigger. Support his channel. Share it out to all your trucking friends. We'd really appreciate it.
I am truly
I've
serious about having a passion.
I've already done that, John.
Yes, we know that.
Good
I am
job, Poe.
truly-
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I am truly serious about the passion I have for doing what I can to give back to the trucking industry. Every show, every issue I bring up, yeah, it may seem to you guys like it's a dead, being a dead horse or whatever, but I have every expectation that the more I talk about these issues, even if they do seem repetitive, the more people will pay attention. And you know what? If it does seem like I'm, repetitive, and then do me a favor, look on the screen, see how I've got put my email address. Please email the show. Let us know. Bossman at thatstruckingnews@outlook.com. It don't take a few minutes, a few seconds. Let me know what you want to talk about. It's not just, maybe my show, but it's not just me. It's you too. So I welcome your thoughts and ideas to the show. Anytime you want to touch on it, you just let me know what you want to talk about, and we'll have it on the show the next time. Thumper, you got anything to leave the show with?
Of course I do. You know I always do. It was a pretty good show. I mean, we're going on just about an hour and a half here. I've learned a few things. Just remember, everybody, your voice matters. It really does, even though it doesn't feel like it in the hardest times or anything like that. But if you voice your opinion, talk to somebody who will actually listen, you'll go a long way. Your mental health, your physical health, everything matters. And also, God bless everybody in the United States, overseas, wherever you're at. I hope you keep the wheels turning. God bless the military, all the people in the affected areas with the hurricane recovery, the wildfires, other natural disasters. We don't do it just for us. We don't do it just for us and our families. We do it for you guys.
Well said, my friend. And I'll tell you what, when it comes down to it, we're here to help you make trucking great again. Take a moment, go down, driving with John, Grumpy Old Trucker, Fate, Midlife Larry, Thumper, all of them. Show them some love and respect as well. Because with them, I bring you a show that leaves you with it's the trucks that make the delivery, but it's you that make the difference. Till we cross paths again, my friend, always keep the faith, always keep it real, and don't forget to keep it rolling.